Okay, my fellow American citizens, this is video 2 made on July 23rd, 2021, and my name is Leslie Williams. I'm making this video today this is a video 2 of at least a 2-part video series dedicated to brain entrainment, dedicated to, related to gang stalking, criminal programs, and some of the aspects that are attached to the brain entrainment program of gang stalking. In fact, I didn't mention this in the first video that I just concluded, but I'm going to mention it in this one. This video can be considered video number 10 in the in the remote neural monitoring CIA hypergame video series videos, because this is incorporated within the brain entrainment that is connected to the CIA hypergame theory that Brian Tew talks about. Go to Google and YouTube and type in Brian Tew electronic harassment, CIA hypergame theory, the Tew hypothesis. His last name is spelled T-E-W. So I'm going to backtrack. Now, at the end of the first video, I'm going to repeat about 3 or 4 minutes of what I was discussing in the at the tail end of the prior video, which is the first video. Okay, discussing this matter. So, in gang stalking crimes, gang stalking, again, one of its main motives, main motives is brain entrainment, the creation of brain entrained looped, L-O-O-P-E-D, brain entrained looped neural pathways, and brain entrained looped neural networks, and brain entrained looped trauma loops, neural networks, and neural entrained pathways. By forcing the brain to experience the same exact identical abuse, the same exact identical stimuli that are related to the crime, so that the brain is forced to, so that the brain waves that are connected to the entrainment, connected to the stimuli, can be constantly re-experienced in the victim's mind. So just, set that aside right there, concerning what I just said. Set that aside for now, and I'm going to go back and segue into making some statements that were brought up at the tail end of the previous video, which is video 1 of this at least 2-part video series, made on today's date, July 23rd, 2021. So what I was saying at the tail end of the previous video was that one of the things that Denzel Washington and 3 or 4 of his fellow soldiers who were abducted in the movie The Manchurian Candidate with Denzel Washington that was made in 2004, one of the main things that Denzel Washington and 3 or 4 fellow soldiers... Hold on a second.
Hi, I'm David.
And I'm Maria.
I brought the movie up and the commercial started. Okay, so this movie right here is the movie you want to watch. Now, as Denzel Washington, when he and 3 or 4 of his fellow soldiers were kidnapped and taken to locations for brain entrainment, they had electrodes placed on their heads at several different parts on their head while they were in a room. And as they were in the room, they were forced to see an individual who was a sergeant, his name being Sergeant Shaw. They were forced to see Sergeant Shaw commit horrific acts against fellow soldiers who were also kidnapped. Now, so Denzel Washington, while he's sitting in a chair and he's got all these electrodes hooked up to his brain, he was forced to see Sergeant Shaw commit violent acts against his other fellow soldiers that were kidnapped with him and in the same room. While he was forced to see Sergeant Shaw commit these horrific violent acts, Denzel Washington was also hearing certain things being identically repeated. Sergeant Shaw is a wonderful man. He's a hero. He's the most respected, so on and so forth person that ever existed. And when you watch the movie, you're going to see that those types of auditorial memories are replayed over and over and over again in Denzel Washington's mind. But the visual memories of Sergeant Shaw killing his fellow soldiers, he doesn't re-experience until he's put under a specific type of drug cocktail and then electrically shocked in order to force the victim, in order to force his brain to reprocess the memories. And you should also research remote neural monitoring and gang stalking, remote neural monitoring and memory mapping and memory stimulation and gang stalking. And at the tail end of the previous video, I also made statements of the fact that when you research some of the features and functions of the human brain that is dedicated to sound processing and visual imagery, okay, and memories, your right and left temples are, and your back, right, and left craniums are, which is the very base bottom of the back of the head on the right and left. So why are gang stalking victims openly all over the internet reporting that the right and left back cranium of their heads are experiencing attacks, which are nothing but, as far as the data I know as of right now, are nothing but direct energy weapons attacks, which is energy that is sent to the back of the head in order to stimulate and make a neurological access of those areas of the head because they're being intruded upon for motives, including the right and left temple, especially if the victim has any type of implants in those areas. Let me bring something up. I think it's on this phone, so bear with me. All right, so what is happening when Denzel Washington is in this room he's put in with 3 or 4 other fellow soldiers that were also abducted? He was hooked up to this. He was in a chair and he was hooked up to a. His brain was literally hooked up to a computer. Okay, so that when Denzel Washington was being forced to witness what he was being forced to see, and as his brain was processing what he was being forced to hear, what was happening was that the brain was being... Well, see, when you see something, and when gang stalking victims experience things that they're forced to see, which are identical every day, research the sensitization technique of gang stalking, where the victims are reported to being forced to see and hear identical things that are propped up, identical words and phrases, identical sounds, identical harassment, including through voice to skull, ELF broadcasting, the audio spotlight, and so on. Well, that victim is being forced to hear identical repeated statements. Okay, including demeaning statements, harassing statements, threats, and so on and so forth. And by the way, let me show you something here. Let me see if I can bring this up in real time so you can see it. Bear with me 1 second. Now, this right here is the back of my right ear. Now, when you zoom in on this, what you should be able to see is a laser surgery scar right here. At the tip of my finger right there. Okay? It's right there. It's right there. And possibly one over here as well. Okay? That's a non-consensual laser surgery scar. And the massive discoloring of the back of my ear, including the lobe itself, including that big, massive red one right there, that's because the right ear, every day is being intentionally forced to process ultrasonic sound. Every day. Now, ultrasonic sound bone conduction, I'm going to bring up my ultrasound app right now, and you're going to see it being caught in real time. Hold on. All right, there you go. Now, I'm at a fucking wooded area. Okay? I'm at a wooded area. So why is my ultrasound detector app picking up massive ultrasonic sound? This property has no buildings on it of any kind. It has no telephone poles, cable poles, or any other type of electrical poles at all. So why am I picking up ultrasound in my environment right now? Now, when you research ultrasonic sound bone conduction torture and gang stalking, that is processed through the ears. Okay? So let me go, so let me continue to speak. Now, and this right here is a little burn that you see being processed as a result of extreme high levels of ultrasonic sound. And if there's any type of wiring in the ear, it would be extremely thin. And if that wiring is forced to process the nonstop continual high levels of ultrasonic sound, it's going to start to burn. Therefore, the wire is going to get extremely hot, causing the flesh to burn. So you should also research ear implants in gang stalking. Okay? So in the movie The Manchurian Candidate, Denzel Washington, by the way, one of the two main features and functions of remote neural monitoring is to monitor what the victim's eyes see, the visual cortex. And these are non-consensual remote neural monitoring lens implants discovered in my eyes in a live Periscope broadcast on June 3rd, 2020. They got pushed out as a direct result of eye fluid and water sacs forming on the surface of the eyes as a direct result of extreme, non-stop extreme high levels of electromagnetic radiation attacks to the head and face and throat between the night of June 2nd, 2020 and the first 8, 9, 10 hours of June 3rd. And that basically what they were doing was literally boiling my brain and boiling my face and head, causing these eye fluid sacs and water sacs to form on the surface of the eyes, causing the remote neural monitoring eye lens implants, which are biofilm liquid crystal ocular implants. Now, since the bubbles appeared on the surface of the eyes, it caused the backside of the remote neural monitoring eye lens implants to be pushed out, making them transparently visible. Copy down that YouTube URL link. Type it in at your URL address bar. That's one video of many that details some of the additional uses of these eye lens implants outside of the fact that they're exposed to be used for extreme criminal surveillance and to assist in visual entrainment, because they can send visual images and video streams to them. Whatever is sent to them is processed through the retina to the optical nerve to the visual cortex, causing the brain to see it. And what's one of the biggest crimes gang stalking does? Forces the victim to experience non-stop, repetitive, identical harassment, visual harassment and auditory harassment, in order to achieve visual and auditory entrainment. So do you think that's what might be, the purpose of the, all right, so hold on one second. The purpose of why ultrasonic sound is being constantly processed in my right ear on a daily fucking basis. Okay, so when Denzel Washington, and his fellow soldiers were abducted and then taken to a second place, all these soldiers, two or three of these soldiers, I think at least 2 or 3 of these soldiers were hooked up to computers buying through electrodes, and then later on in the movie, it openly just shows brain implants, shoulder implants, and so on. Okay? Alright? This, so I'm going to spend a couple more minutes looking for a specific snap screenshot, and if I can't find it, I'll just stop looking for it. Now, so what's important about the Denzel Washington movie is that the Manchurian Candidate is that when they were taken to this room, they were forced to see something that was extremely negative, where he was forced to see Sergeant Shaw sadistically murder his fellow soldiers. While that was occurring, while he was seeing his fellow soldiers being killed by Sergeant Shaw, which is visual processing to create visual memories for visual entrainment. So while he was forced to see these acts for those motives, he was also hearing Sergeant Shaw is a wonderful man. He's the most respectful, honorable, soldier alive. Positive statements about Sergeant Shaw. So while the Denzel Washington is seeing positive stuff, while Denzel Washington is being forced to see extremely negative stuff of Sergeant Shaw murdering his fellow soldier, he's being told positive things about Sergeant Shaw. Identical repeated looped statements about Sergeant Shaw, identical repeat looped positive statements, while he's seeing identical looped horrific heinous acts Sergeant Shaw is doing. So that's creating an interference signal neurologically, but it's also creating like 2 separate sets of brainwaves. One visual of a negative thing he's doing, and then a positive auditorial entrained pathway concerning the context of what's being verbally said, and then the brain creates an auditorially entrained pathway concerning it. Same thing concerning what he's visually seeing. That's creating a visual entrained pathway. Now, the visual entrained pathway, its contents is completely opposite of what he's hearing, which is the auditory entrained pathway. So what happens then is that the brain will create an interference signal. Because the brain is getting locked up as a direct result of the brain being fed contrasting information visually and auditorily in real time. While the brain is hooked up to electrodes that are monitoring and recording the brain activity, the brain waves of what is being created in real time. The auditory brain waves and the visual brain waves. The auditory is positive in nature. The visual is extremely negative in nature. So as he is processing these contrasting, this contrasting content, the brain's activities is being recorded. So what's being recorded are your EEG brain waves. Now, my fellow American citizens, in the first video, I brought to the attention of my viewers some information concerning, go to Google and type in a Google gang stalking voice to skull. Hold on one second. Go to Google and type in gang stalking voice to skull and repetition. I discussed Erwin Cameron, ERWIN, concerning what he did with psychiatric patients back in the 60s and 70s in Canada and in America, where he forced them into intentionally induced comas, and where some of them were also awake, where he would take these patients and put them on a table and force them to listen to by and through headphones that were hooked up to tape recorders, where what was taped, what they were forced to listen to, were identical repeated looped statements, identical repeated looped sections of music, identical repeated looped negative statements. That's for auditory entrainment. Identical looped contrasting auditorial statements. Okay, so the same technique is being purposely propped up by and through voice-to-skull technology, where the victims are constantly forced to process negative statements, demeaning statements through voice-to-skull that are identical. Threats, harassment, critical statements that are extremely critical, insults, and so much more. Same technique that Erwin Cameron was doing. Okay? Now, when you go to YouTube and you type in at YouTube search box, hold on one second, because I brought this up in the first video, but I want to make sure my viewers see this in the second video as well. Bear with me a second. Now, what you want to do is when you bring up YouTube search box, you want to type in what you see here at my finger. Type that in. MTS Gang Stalk, oh my God, Suck My DI, and then the number symbol twice. And it's a playlist in Higgins Williams YouTube account. What you want to do is read the description before you listen to any video. You're going to be, when you bring these videos up, what you want to do is you want to listen for Gang Stalk, oh my God, Suck Dick, or Suck My Dick being said in the background, and in the background of the locations of the evidence videos within this YouTube video. I'm going to bring up one right now really fast. Hold on one second. So you can see, and this is one of many, many, many videos of this being caught at UCSD in multiple years. So when I bring this up, and remember what I just said about what Erwin Cameron was doing, forcing his psychiatric patients to hear nonstop identical repeated loop statements, critical statements, and by the way, he was working on behalf of the CIA. Okay, it's what he was doing was for mind pattern programming, under the bullshit guise of trying to cure schizophrenia. It was nothing but bullshit. Oh, absolutely. It was trauma-induced. It was in brain entrainment was the goal for it. Now, when you bring this video up, that's within the MTS Gang Stalk, oh my God, Suck My DACK YouTube playlist I just showed you a second ago. This right here is one of the videos in it. Now, I'm going to turn it on. Turn it up, and I'm only going to play a couple seconds of it. Now, you can see it's at 0.00, right? Now, when I press play, you're going to hear, right before it gets to 0.01, you're going to hear a woman in the background say, suck my dick, or suck dick. Then you're going to immediately hear gang stalk being said by male voices twice. Then you're going to hear me say, let's see if you hear gang stalk. That's me talking into my tape recorder. UCSD was caught on hundreds and hundreds of audio files on hundreds of different dates and videos all over their campus. So I'm going to turn it on right now. When I turn it on, you're going to see this time marker move, and you're going to hear it the second I press play. Okay, so listen for a woman who says, suck dick, and then two people say gang stalk, and then I say, let's see if you hear gang stalk. I'm talking into my tape recorder. So watch this. Okay, you ready? Okay. So you heard a girl say, suck dick. Then you heard it, well, what it sounded like another woman say gang stalk, and then a guy said gang stalk, and then I say, let's see if you hear gang stalk. Again, me talking into my tape recorder. So listen very carefully. Okay, you ready? Okay. So bring that video up. And then when you bring up the other videos that are evidence videos within this playlist, which there's at least 150, you're going to see this shit caught everywhere. Okay, MTS bus routes, RBs, Bonds, the San Diego prosecutors and public defenders being caught doing it, me exposing the Thanksgiving event in this video, and there's a video in there of the text messages that were sent to my phone by 3 perps, it being caught at social services on multiple dates, Ross grocery store here, the one with the speaker in the video, SDSU, UCSD, USD. There's a UCSD, there's an SDSU video right here of it being caught while I'm on SDSU property. Right outside their fucking food court. Absolutely. Okay? This is a 4-part video series of... Okay, you just heard it. And when you watch this video, you're going to see the library and the food court and everything behind me. I'm sitting at the food court outside trying to eat my lunch in peace. That's a 4-part video series of 4 of many videos of catching at SDSU. Now, so going back to what they were doing with Denzel Washington in the movie The Manchurian Candidate, was that in order to create an interference signal in the brain and in order to create
with new strawberry flavored popping bubbles at Dunkin' and add a burst of
now, auditory brain entrainment and visual brain entrainment are one of the two main goals of gang stalking. Because once that's created, it is then exploited to the most maximum extreme in the most horrific, heinous, sadistic ways that you can think of and that you can't. Again, go to Google and type in at Google remote neural monitoring, memory mapping, memory stimulation, and so on. Now, I'm going to do one more thing here, and then I'm going to segue into the subject matter. In this movie trailer, let me light my cigarette real fast while this is coming up. Okay, so in this movie trailer right here, hold on. I got to get a sip of water too. Alright, so this might actually become a 3-part video series. Okay, hold on one second. It somehow got started again by itself. So this might be actually a 3-part video series. So when I start reaching the 66-minute mark or 63-minute mark, I'm going to talk as if I'm getting ready to end the video. So when you go into the YouTube channel that you see this video through and look for a video that shows me stating at the beginning this is July 23rd, 2021, then you'll know you're in one of the videos dedicated to at least a 3-part video series. Pertaining to this current exposure, you definitely want to stay with this video series because you need to know, my fellow American citizens, the satanic, horrific, depraved, demented minds of these wild, filthy whores. Okay, that host this crime. And the scientists connected to them. And the doctors. Absolutely. These are the most depraved psychos that have ever walked this fucking planet. Scientists and doctors are all over the internet saying it. That these are the most evil, sick, demented, depraved psychos that have ever walked this fucking planet. So just hear me out. Now, in the movie The Minority Report, this is all related. Trust me. In the movie The Minority Report, there's 2 girls that are hooked up to electrodes. As a direct result, and they're reported to be clairvoyant, which means they can see the future. Just hear me out. This is all part of the exposure. It relates to it in a specific way. So in this movie, The Minority Report, with Tom Cruise, just YouTube this trailer and there's other trailers as well, and watch the movie. You're going to see 2 women who are hooked up to electrodes who are clairvoyant. They're able to see in the future. They're able to see murders that happen in the future. Once they identify a murder that's going to happen in the future, their memories get sent to a computer their visual memories get sent to a computer, and then Tom Cruise sees them and then tries to take the contents of them so he can try and determine the address and the location where the murder is going to take place so he can go there to prevent it before it occurs. Okay? So I'm going to play just a couple seconds of this. Watch this.
what's coming? Double homicide, 1 male, 1 female. Killer's male, white, 40s. Set up a perimeter and tell them we're on river.
Okay, so what he's doing is he's taking these visual memories that are transferred to the computer from the girls in order to determine the contents of the visual memory so he can try and determine where the murder is going to take place at so he can go and stop it before it occurs. So research, remote neural monitoring, and visual memory mapping, memory stimulation, and gang stalking. All right, now hold on one second. And gang stalking. Now, memories play a huge role in human beings' thought composition, the creation of thoughts. Here's a fast example. Say if you're out and about in the community and you've been shopping all day, and you're with your wife and your kids, and you're in your car, and you just got them going to the last place that you plan on shopping for the day, and you're too tired to go home and cook. So the dad says, "How do you guys feel about getting Mexican?" So then everybody says, his wife says, "Yeah, sure, let's go to a Mexican restaurant." So then the man who says this, he starts accessing his memories concerning what the best Mexican restaurant that he's ever been to in the area. So his brain, as a result of his brain processing the fact that he's hungry, okay, because when your brain gets hungry, the limbic system, it's going to start nudging the conscious mind to go eat. Now, if you then have a certain appetite on a specific day of what type of food you might want, that's going to also be signaled for the brain to process. Okay, have you ever had those days where you say to yourself, "I feel like chicken, I feel like a hamburger, I feel like a cheeseburger, I feel like a Big Mac, I feel like a pizza," whatever. So then what happens is that your brain then starts accessing your memory bank of where the best Mexican restaurant's at, and it's going to flash the very short visual images of Taco Bell or another Mexican restaurant that you've had food at, and then it's going to start retrieving the data pertaining to where it's located at, and then you're going to go there. Our memories play a big role in our thought composition that we then eventually act on. Visual memories, remote neural monitoring, memory mapping, and memory stimulation. So when you can see how memories can play a role in your current thought composition, okay, what composes a current thought, so you then act on the thought, you can see that memories absolutely play a role. If somebody's moving back into a neighborhood that they moved out of, where the neighbors knew he was breaking into homes, once he is re-seen, those visual memories and the contents of them are going to be reprocessed in the neighbors' minds about what this person has done in the past. So they know what to look out for currently. So that's a thought composition connected to a visual memory. Okay? Absolutely. If your dryer breaks and you get online and you research 5 different appliance stores that sell dryers, and you redo that research, and then the next day you say to yourself, "I'm going to go look at these dryers," your brain's going to, and as you're thinking about what you can afford and the warranty and everything, your brain is going to start flashing back those images of the dryers you saw on the websites the day before, because your brain is contemplating about what washer and dryer to go buy. So then the memory, the visual memory, becomes part of the thought deliberation about where to go to buy the dryer at. Now, the reason why this is stated is because when gang stalking victims are being forced to see and hear opposing, contrasting dialogue, where both, though, have 1 or 2 identical attributes connected to them, consider this and consider this well. One of the biggest reported crimes connected to gang stalking crimes, and I'm getting ready to segue into the second video here, the third video here in a couple minutes. So when I do that, in the beginning of the third video, I'm going to state today's date, which is the 23rd of June, and I'm going to say this is the third video. Okay, dedicated to the Manchurian Candidate. That's what the video is going to be titled as. Okay, so I'm going to be approaching that here within the next 45 seconds. All right, so hold on one second, because I'm looking for a piece of paper. I don't know what the hell happened to it. And so I'm not going to regurgitate a lot of things that I said in video 1 and video 2. I'm just going to segue into the continuation of what's been presented in video 1 and video 2 in the third video. Okay? So I'm getting ready to approach that marker here within the next 25 seconds. So remember, go into the YouTube channel that you see this video in and look for the first video and the third video. All three videos, I don't know if I'm going to make a fourth today concerning this, are going to mention at the beginning of it that today's date is July 23rd, 2021. And you'll know then you're in one of the videos dedicated to this video series because it might not be titled right away. Okay. So, this is now video 3 of this video series made on July 23rd, 2021. My name is Leslie Williams. I live in San Diego, California. Bear with me one second because I'm looking for something that I wrote out on a piece of paper and I'm having a hard time refinding it. So, just bear with me 1 second. 1 second. Oh, baby cakes. Alright, so, this particular video is being made in order to show you some of the horrific, depraved, demented pathologies of the persons who host gang stalking crime pertaining to the brain entrainment connected to gang stalking. You can also consider this video series that's going to be titled The Manchurian Candidate Remote Neural Monitoring. You can also synthesize, you can also synthesize what's exposed in so far this 3-part video series. I might make another 4th or 5th one down the road. So stay tuned to this account. You can also synthesize the information disclosed in this video series that's going to be titled Remote Neural Monitoring the Manchurian Candidate into your understanding of what's exposed within the YouTube video series videos that are in the same account that are titled Remote Neural Monitoring CIA Hypergame Theory. And as of today's date, there's about 8 videos within this YouTube. Some of them have already been exposed in this YouTube account you're watching this video through. And so far, 8 videos have been made. Not all 8 have been uploaded yet. And the majority of them haven't even been titled yet. But you'll know you're in the right video when you bring the videos up and you see this is a Remote Neural Monitoring CIA Hypergame video series video. So, give me 1 second. I got to do something here, so I'm going to be quiet just for a second. Trust me, it's important. Just bear with me. Okay, now, I apologize for the disruption. Now, gang stalking victims all over the internet are reporting that they're being forced to endure identical repeated harassment through community-based harassment and through sound technologies. So I'm just going to show you something here real fast that was brought to the, that was incorporated within, presented within the first 2 videos. When you go to Google and you type in a Google gang stalking voice, okay, hold on 1 second. When you go to Google and type in a Google, god dang it, what?